Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about different imagery options we have available to us through the state, through ArcGIS Online when you have an ArcGIS Online account. Today I'm going to show you how to build this map with all sorts of different imagery options for your projects. And for those of you who do have ArcPro, I'm going to quickly go over how to pull in the same data into ArcGIS Pro. So you want something that looks like this. You want to be able to toggle imagery options on and off to see what's the best fit for the project that you're doing. Well, the best way to do that is to know what imagery options we currently have available. So to get started, you're going to want to open up a new map. So you sign into your account on ArcGIS Online to our organization and start creating a new map. The first thing that you might be familiar with is just our general base maps. So when we look at that, we do have a few different options. We have a Firefly imagery hybrid, we have general imagery, an imagery hybrid. Hybrid just means that there is a reference layer underneath on top of that to tell you where streets are and such. So I'm going to pull on this one real quick. And that's pretty interesting. But in order to really get some reference of where we're working today, I want to add our state parks boundary layer to get started. So I'm going to search for state park boundaries. When I add a layer and I look under my organization, the one you're going to go for is the one that says state park boundaries, and it has this little check mark next to it. That's our authoritative data set. And today I'm going to be focusing on 7 Islands because I thought that'd be a fun property with the changing of seasons over there. So we have 7 islands right here. I want to change the symbology on this just a little bit, so I'll be able to see through that. And so real quick, I'm going to turn off the inside. I'm going to make that transparent. I'm going to make the outside color one of my recent colors. And hey, just because I don't know if you know these tools, it's kind of fun to play with. I'm going to put some effects on it, like bloom and drop shadow. For the bloom, I'm going to turn this down a bit so it's not too strong. And now I got a nice glow popping this boundary up off the ground. And so I go back to our layers. I don't have anything but the state park boundaries in here and then a base map of some imagery. So one of the first places you might start to go is see what's available through ArcGIS Online. To do that, I'm going to hit Add Data and look for the Living Atlas. That's all the free imagery that comes from Esri and other authoritative data sources. If I search imagery, I could add this world imagery layer. I could add this NAIP imagery, which is natural color, and a whole bunch of different ones. The Firefly base map that we were already looking at, but you can add it as just a layer. And maybe a couple other ones. Multispectral Landsat, that's a fun one. So with that, now I look, I've got all these different layers here. I'm going to zoom on in. Looks like that Landsat one, yeah, it's got that going on here. I'm going to turn this one off because it's a bit funky. That's one of the kind of layers you might want to do some manipulation to. But again, we'll head on over to 7 Islands and see what we've got. Great. So I'm looking at the NAIP natural color. I can turn that on and off, and I see world imagery underneath. I turn that on and off. Well, that's the same as our base map. So that's what that's going to look like. Let's see if there are any other ones out there that were interesting. You could add NDVI or in-color infrared as well. And look at that. So maybe you're really interested on seeing different wet areas around your park or your land and being able to differentiate pavement specifically. Look at that. Now we're looking at the NDVI. All right, so we got that. Let's see what else we had pulled up on this map. So you might be thinking, I want something that's a little bit more high definition. As I zoomed into here, I'm going to use this parking lot for an example. I don't have the most definition going on here. The layer that I'm looking at is just general world imagery. If I turned on the NDVI or the NAIP natural color, it takes a second to load. You can see the parking lot was a little bit more full on the day that this was taken, but I don't know too much about it. It's a little bit blurry. So what you might want to do if you work for the state, you have access to extra state layers. And the best way to look at that is to go to the Tennessee Imagery Program, imagery.tn.gov. Here you can learn all about the different options we have. Some of them you have to actually request access to, and they'll give you a special code that'll come after you fill out a form and come in an email. We got disaster response imagery. I can show you what that looks like for Nashville. It's imagery collected for the entire path. They flew an actual plane to get high definition imagery of the path of this tornado, and you can see it coming through these neighborhoods and ripping through that. And so you'd be able to download that and upload that to ArcGIS Online if you were particularly interested in that. You might have noticed that one of the options was TDOT imagery. And the TDOT imagery program, they go around the state every year and collect different bits of the state. And so you can find out using this Explorer for a specific county, when was the last time that imagery was collected. And to get that imagery, you might go for a REST endpoint. So with a REST endpoint, you're able to just take this URL and add it to your map. So I go back to my map and I want to go down to add layers from a URL. When I do that and paste it in here, it's going to recognize that the type is a server web service. And you could even use that as your base map instead of just a layer, but I'm going to use add to map. And look at that. Already that's much more high resolution. It's not being taken from a satellite like all these other imagery sources are. This one is actually flown by planes owned by the state. And so I'm going to rename this one TDOT to make it easier for ourselves. All right, let's see if we have any more high resolution imagery available to us. I'm going to go back to our imagery programs, imagery.tn.gov, and I'm interested in this Vexcel program. This is the one that you have to get access and request a URL from, and I recently did that. So the Vexcel program, as I said, it's limited to state government or local government, and here's all the details about this product. And do add from URL. Paste that in here. And what's really cool is there's 3 different years of data of imagery that I can bring in at once. As I add it to the map, you'll see a drop down. And right now I'm looking at all 3 years. But and because this little eye is showing, this is me looking at TDOT, but let me turn on the 2023 imagery. And let's look at some clarity here too. You'll see that it kind of buffers as you give it a second. And I'm going to toggle through these 1 year at a time. So let's turn off 2023. This is what it looked like in 2022. So we've gotten even more crisp on that year. And going to the next year. That's really cool. Well, this park has been in development for a little bit. It's a relatively new parking lot where they've been adding these trails. What if I was interested in historical imagery? There are some sources and ways you can do this by going to Google Earth and looking at the historical imagery viewer. But if we're working solely within Esri, an ArcGIS product is a great way to do that. And the way to do that is go to the the Living Atlas, Esri World Imagery Wayback Machine. What this allows you to do is zoom into your area of interest, and it will populate and show you if available imagery from those time periods. So basically, if there was a project that went on where they made the imagery publicly available, maybe they are working construction on I-40 and it happened to capture this time period in this area, it's going to say that we have imagery from all these little timestamps. You'll notice that it's a little bit irregular. It's opportunistic imagery is how I like to kind of say that it is. So I've already pulled up 7 islands back over here, and I use this fun swipe tool. So it allows you to toggle back and forth between 2 different years so you can compare and contrast. And the reason I did that is on the left side, I picked June of 2023. And on the right side, I picked an earlier year. I believe this is 2014 or maybe even 2011. And the difference is the parking lot was not there back then. So that's pretty cool. So maybe you're trying to do some like stream mitigation or see erosion over time or sim trails. This is the resolution you're getting, so it's not crazy, but it is possible to get just these images. And so what I would do is I'm going to pick this imagery from 2023, June 2023. You'll notice on all of this, we don't know the exact day these images were taken. So it does get a little bit tricky. We know the year and maybe a month if you do look into the metadata. But with the World Imagery Wayback, we can get a specific date. So this might be really good for some kind of disaster relief or if there was a significant event like a fire or something that happened. And to get this, I'm going to click this little cloud download button, this image, and it's going to open it up in a new tab. And it's going to ask for that. And what I can do is open this in Map Viewer. This happened to open it in the old Map Viewer. So let me see if I can go back and add it to the current one we're using. Yeah, I opened it in Map Viewer Classic. So let's just open it in regular Map Viewer. And this is the satellite imagery that was taken right at that time. So you're able to add that imagery to a new map, and then you might go through the process of adding back those layers. Um, with this process, you really are kind of creating a new map to work on, but you can add all those imagery through the different options that I showed you to this map to kind of compare and contrast it over time. When you're done working on your map, you want to make sure you can save this. So you click Save As, I'm going to call this imagery demo. If for some reason you are not able to save the project, it probably means you don't have the right level of licensing. You might be assigned a mobile worker license, and if so, reach out to me and we'll get you the creator license, which allows you to edit and do a little bit more with ArcGIS Online. So that covers getting all this imagery into ArcGIS Online. We've got some nice high resolution imagery in here. I can do all sorts of things with it now, and I'm really loving it. But if I'm one of the few people who has an ArcGIS Pro license, it's really, really similar to that. You're going to be just working with the catalog pane mostly and the add data button. So if I'm adding this Vexcel imagery, I'm going to copy it. And instead, what I want to do is add a server. So instead of using the add button like I was going to do, we're going to go to Insert Connection. And I'm going to do a WMS server. I know it sounds complicated, but it actually works out pretty easily. That was called a WMS, so we're looking to add a WMS server connection. I'm connecting it here. I don't need a username or password. Because I'm already on the state network, it's going to know that. You'll notice it didn't automatically show up in my contents pane. So I'm going to go to catalog and open up servers. And there you'll see that web map service. And I can add in any of these imagery layers. And you'll see the coverage for the entire state of Tennessee. Now, what if I only wanted those simple ones of the NDVI? What I'll do is I'll go to Portal, and that's connecting to the cloud to ArcGIS Online. I've made sure that I'm signed in over here, and I'm going to go to Living Atlas where I'll search imagery. Here I can add world imagery. You'll notice there's maps and imagery layers. What you want to do is filter for the item type to get what you're looking for. I like to use imagery layers, and maybe you only want maybe you want a tile layer. Those will load faster because it's broken up into little blocks. But in this case, I just want an imagery layer. I can get that color infrared, the Landsat, pan sharpened, all sorts of really fun ones right in here. And before, like we talked about, having that REST service for TDOT. That one I'm pretty sure I can bring right on in here. Going to do add data from URL. And that basemaps web Mercator, that was actually just the state of Tennessee. That's the TDOT imagery. You can see that the Vexcel imagery actually went a little bit beyond into Alabama, North Carolina, and Kentucky. And the TDOT imagery is broken up into the regions of coverage. so for when they flew over that. The best thing that we like about some of these is that it is leaf off. So you're able to see beneath the trees a lot of the times, taken in the winter. So you don't have to worry. It lets you see the streets and everything a little bit better. So if I go to Vexcel, both those TDOT and Vexcel were taken in the winter. But if I go back to that NAIP, that might be full vegetation. Actually, in that case, it's a color infrared, so it's looking through the vegetation. But those are some imagery options, whether you're using ArcGIS Pro or you're just using ArcGIS Online. And hopefully you'll find that helpful for you guys. Thank you.